So in the beginning, it was really difficult for me. Everyone's like, yeah, you just hit to this spot on this girl. And I was like, I didn't know that. Like, I didn't know that was like a thing or anything like that. But they're like, yeah, everyone knows that. I'm like, kind of like confused. So when I first started, I watched a lot of film, like all day, every day. When I was not on the court, I was watching film. Like these new tennis players coming in who are super athletic and strong, but you'll also see someone like, let's say Tyson McGuffin, like he's all about dinks, resets, all those things, and he's adjusting to the game and he's staying in there with everyone. It's just so nice to see things like that. And that's how the game is going to grow. Everyone's getting better and everyone's moving along with it.
All right, welcome to the Zero Zero Start Podcast, episode number 31. It's crazy we've done that many. It doesn't seem like that many, but we are here. Special guest, really excited to have you. Hurricane Tyra Black is with us today. Looks like you may have just finished a training session or you're on your way to a training session, which is not uncommon with pro athletes. I realize that you guys are always on the move and always perfecting your game. Did you just finish playing?
Yeah, I just finished playing. I came over to Naples to train with my partner, Paris, so it's about a 2-hour drive. And then I go back home later today after my second practice.
So even pro pickleball players have a commute to work. Is that what you're telling us?
Yes, so lucky for me, I live in Boca Raton, and there's so many pickleball players there. So usually we don't have to always drive more than like maybe 10 to 30 minutes, usually every day. But I know people in California, they're driving like anywhere from like 30 to 2 hours a day, which is absolutely crazy. It was the same in tennis. Everyone I knew over in like California and stuff had very, very long commutes. There was a few months in tennis where I was training in like South Miami, so I was driving like an hour and a half, 2 hours if there was traffic every day. And I just wanted to come over and play with Paris, and I love driving, so like 2 hours isn't bad for me.
Well, that's awesome, and for you guys, I mean, that's your doubles partner. That's who you play with. That's invaluable to be able to play because you can practice on your own. And this is probably something that a lot of the athletes struggle with. Is like if you don't live by your partner, you're practicing on your own, but you're not building the team chemistry that you guys need to go compete at the highest level.
Yeah, I think what a lot of people are missing is just kind of that on-court, off-court chemistry. You see like the top teams, I think they have great chemistry on the court and off the court, and they spend time with each other. They've had a lot of reps on court. I'm sure after you play together for like a year or two, you don't need to practice with each other as much all the time, but
Sure.
especially in the beginning, I think those reps are super important, getting to know your partner, being able to feel comfortable with them so you can kind of communicate better on the court.
And some of them have grown up together. They play
Yeah.
with their mom or they play with their brother. So
Yeah.
they've got like unmatched ultimate chemistry of being together for 20 something years or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's rewind the clock then. And let's talk about you come from an athletic family. Let's talk about some of that, some of your family's athletic history that's built you into becoming a top player.
So my mom did a bunch of different stuff in like high school. She's from a small town in California. Um, so she did like swimming. I think she tried to play some tennis. She did like track. She did a bunch of random sports when she was younger. But my dad, he's from Jamaica. He did track and field. He got a silver medal in like I think it's like the junior South, I don't know what it's called exactly, but he was like doing track. He was gonna go professional, and then I think he found tennis and really liked tennis, which was kind of a similar story with me and going from tennis to pickleball. But I think he fell in love with tennis, and then he moved to the States, and he just like fully went into tennis. He played juniors for a while, and then he came to America, and tennis was super expensive. He ended up working at Rick Macy Tennis Academy, which is like a huge tennis academy in tennis. And there was like quite a few good players there. Like Serena and Venus were there at the time training with my oldest sister, Nicole, my half sister. And that's when he met my mom. And they ended up having me and my other sister, Alicia, and they wanted two tennis players. So they had both of us. And then my oldest sister obviously played tennis. And then my other sister, Alicia, Tornado, she also played tennis. She was very good. She played WTA. She was number 2 in juniors, I think, in the world. She was in the finals of Junior US Open, and she got injured, unfortunately, and had to have a few surgeries, and that ended her tennis career, trying to get her to play pickleball. But yeah, everyone in the family is super into tennis, and that also comes with the nickname part. It's not a nickname, but it's my actual middle name, Hurricane, and then it's my sister's nickname, Tornado. So when my mom and dad met each other at Macy, they decided they wanted tennis players and that they would name me Hurricane when they had me and put it as my middle name. And then my sister's nickname was Tornado.
That's pretty cool though. Like it's cool that your parents had like a vision for you and like and had that kind of laid out for you, because I love that. And I have kids too, and like pushing them to be really, really good at something I think is really important. And it's cool that from day one that they had a vision for you guys, and you guys both took it to like an incredibly high level professional. But how did you get your start into pickleball? We know you played professional tennis. Your sister played professional tennis. What what brought you to pickleball away from tennis?
So I played, I was a top junior. I started playing juniors right at 13 years old. I started traveling the world internationally by myself. And I just started playing all these events, traveling so much. Being alone was super tough. And it was also very expensive to play pros. And in juniors, if you played, I think, grade 3 and above, so like 3, 2, 1, which is like the highest levels, they pay for your food and hotel. So I stayed playing juniors as long as I could, right until I was 18 years old. And then I played my first like 2 big pro tournaments, which was 25Ks, and I qualified, got to the finals and semis back to back weeks. And I went home and COVID happened. And from there, obviously, everyone took time off and I couldn't really play tennis, and everything was just, it was a super difficult situation. And then I started playing some tournaments again for tennis, and I did not really enjoy it that much. I never really enjoyed tennis. I loved traveling, but I did not enjoy being on court and playing. And I was taking girls over to like tournaments, and I was like their coach. That's how I was kind of affording to go to all these events. And I was like, I really did not enjoy this at all. Like, I didn't enjoy playing. I'm coaching. I loved coaching, but like, I was still kind of playing at the time. And I was getting some of the biggest wins in my career. Like, I was beating girls that were like top 100 and top 50. And I was like, if I'm not enjoying beating these top players and like winning these tournaments that I'm playing, like, when am I ever really going to enjoy it if I haven't all these years?
Right.
And my friend, James Ignatowicz, we've been friends since we were like 13 years old. We played tennis together, we trained together. And he's like, you have to try the sport pickleball, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I did not want to play. I was like, what is this? Like, I didn't know anything about it. I just knew that it sounded really annoying, the ball. Thankfully, I don't notice it anymore, but it was very annoying to me. And after like a few months, I finally went out and tried it, and I really liked it. And I was still playing tennis at the time, so I could play like, if I was lucky, like 1, 2 times a week. Sometimes I try to do 3, but I was traveling like 2, 3 months at a time, and they don't really have pickleball courts outside of US in many places, so I could not play at all. And I just remember being in Turkey for some events, and there was an earthquake there. And it was a devastating, very bad earthquake. And so many people died, and it was just a really scary situation. And I was like, I'm sitting over here in Turkey. It's a beautiful country. I loved being there, but I was like, I'm not enjoying what I'm doing here. And it's kind of like, what am I doing with my life? Like, even if I do well in tennis and I keep going down my path, I have my highest ranking, I'm beating good players, like, when am I going to enjoy it? Why am I going to keep doing something that I don't love doing? And I remember like watching pickleball for the first time, like a tournament. It was Minnesota, so it was exactly a year ago. Um, or it was January last year, and I was like, this looks really cool and a lot of fun, and like I loved playing. So my first thought is I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna go full into pickleball and I'm gonna play. I absolutely loved playing. It looks like so much fun. I'm not gonna waste any more time doing something that I don't enjoy doing. I've done that for over 20 years. I played tennis since I was 3 years old. I'm not gonna do it anymore, and full into pickleball from there.
And here we are.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. So I've heard a ton of different ways people got introduced to the sport. another pro player introduced you to the sport and you became one of the top players in the world. That's unique. Like to have James pull you into the sport and then you become one of the top. That's the first I've heard of that one.
Yeah, I mean, I was super lucky because to me, tennis is pretty similar to pickleball. It's a lot of things are like completely different, like the strategy and stuff like that, but still a racket sport that's kind of similar in ways.
Sure.
So I put in a lot of hours on the court. I was out there all day long, every day. And I had some of the best players in the world around me in Boca Raton. So I had high level training from the first day I went on the court and I was out there for hours. So for me, it was like a decently easy transition. I mean, I put in a lot of hours, but like for the most part, it happened quicker than it would for most people because of how much time I put into it and how many good players I had around me and
Sure.
helping me out. So yeah.
What was the hardest challenge? I mean, tennis is like one of those sports that you grind. It is a hard, physically difficult sport to play in your body. But pickleball, and like you said, there's so many characteristics that just transition over so perfectly. But pickleball is just different. I mean, pickleball is very hard on your body too, but there's a lot more. There's different movements, right? There's a lot. The running is a lot less. You run up and back, back and forth a lot more in pickleball than you seem to do in tennis. A lot of baseline side to side, right? There's not as much happening up near the net, at least in the
Yeah.
singles game. What was the biggest challenge for you coming over from tennis to pickleball?
So the soft game was a pretty tough thing to get into, but I've actually been thinking about this a lot lately. And one of the bigger issues I had now that I think about it, so in tennis, I had a really unconventional game. I sliced pretty much everything, forehand and backhand. And in pickleball, slices don't always work so well. So, especially in singles, I realized that I had to like completely change to hitting over everything. Um, so that was like a pretty tough thing for me. And then like the movements too on the court. The court's kind of tiny and I always run into the fences when I play. Um, a lot of my game is like movement, getting balls back in tennis and slicing. So now I went to pickleball and I'm like trying to hit over everything and like stay within the short court. That was very, very difficult for me. I still struggle with it sometimes.
Well, those are, I feel like if that was the hardest part of the transition, you're in pretty darn good shape then, because if like you're tracking down so many balls that you're running into the fence, that one is a good one that's an easy one to cure. I mean, not easy, but you know what I mean. If that's your biggest problem, I wish that was my biggest problem. Is like, man, I get so many balls and I'm running so fast that I run into the fence. You must,
Yeah. I'm still
that's a
working
good,
on the soft game though. It's an issue, but I think that's more of like you have to stay focused a lot. It's not really like that much of like it is a transition, but you can make those shots. You just have to stay locked in to hit those, keep the same
sure.
strokes every time. With the running, I'm like, okay, if I see someone's hitting the ball straight into the fence, I want to dive for it and get it. I was like, this time I can't do that. I don't want to injure myself. I've gone
Yes,
under
please don't.
fences multiple times. I've fallen on top of like the sponsor signs on the side of the courts and everything. So that's happened quite a few times.
So you're still working out those kinks of falling and hitting the fence, but I think that's what so many fans appreciate about your game is like you're full send and we see a lot of players out there, but you're like every point battle. Doesn't matter how far the ball is away. If it's the 12th shot of the rally, you're going to go track it down. I think your biggest the hardest part of your transition might be one of the biggest reasons you have so many fans.
Yeah, I just want it so bad. I love playing. I'm pretty fast on the court. One issue I've been having lately, I've kind of had it. I've always kind of had it a little bit, but I'm seeing it a lot more now. Is like someone will hit a ball past my partner and think it's a winner, and I will run back and get it, and they scream, "Come on!" And I've been having trouble with the refs because the refs, that's a hindrance, and the refs won't call it, and then they're like, "Oh well." They have like all these different excuses, and every time I go to the head ref they're like, yes, that's a hindrance, sometimes it's on camera too. But I'm like, people aren't used to me, anyone really running back and getting all those balls, so it's like it's funny.
So they got to give you an extra second before they celebrate because ball passes opponent number one. It doesn't mean that you're letting that ball go.
Yeah, I've done that before. I played with um I think it was like Anna Bright. We were playing a tournament and I ran behind her and she like stopped and like she kind of put her paddle down, thought the point was over, and I hit it and the ball hit her because she was like right in front of me and she like thought the point was over. Oh my gosh.
Well, but I tell you what, that's like what I mean, again, people probably love to play with you for that same reason is that's the partner you want to have. You want to have the partner on the team that like, I got your back. Like, it's by you, but I'm not going to give up on that point.
Yeah.
Well, that's so having played for a year, basically, you've you have like skyrocketed in your ability on the court. I mean, you've had success beating the number one women's player in the world in singles. What are your goals for the coming year? I mean, I'm assuming that's on there too, but are you one of those players that writes out their goals, checks them off, or do you not have goals, or what's your thought process around that?
So, especially in tennis, like I never wanted to have goals because when I set a goal and I achieve that goal, it's it's like a sad feeling after. Like obviously I'm happy I reached that goal, but it's like, okay, now what do I do? Like in tennis, I was like, I want to win nationals. And then I won nationals, and then like playing nationals after that wasn't as exciting because like I'm like I got my goal. I ended up winning the gold ball at nationals. I got what I wanted, and then it's like Orange Bowl, which is a really big event, and then I kind of did it, and then it's like I kind of didn't want to train that much after. And then in pickleball, I was like, okay, I won a gold medal, and I got the gold medal last year, and it was just kind of like I was so happy I got it, but it's like now what? Now I'm working towards like another gold medal. Like nothing's like for me it's tough to set that first goal. I kind
Sure.
of have to like put it to something crazy. But then at the same time if you don't achieve that goal within the year, then you're also upset about it. So it's a tough situation for me. So now I just don't set goals anymore.
Well, that's good then. Then you have an infinite amount of things that you can look forward to in your career and not have to hold yourself to any of them. Or you go the full rogue route and just do like, I'm going to win 500 triple crowns and a
Yeah.
thousand PPA tournaments, and you just say something so wild that you can chase your goal until you're 75 years old and probably still not get there. And then, although to your point, then maybe you're just like upset that you didn't reach your goals. So yeah, you have a good plan. No goals,
Yeah.
just keep grinding.
This year, I'm just working on my game a lot. I kind of went full send into pickleball and I played every single event from the like minute I started, so I never really worked on anything. So towards like mid-January I started changing some stuff in my game, and it's so weird like having to change like a stroke in pickleball or something like that. I haven't done it yet. I haven't really done it in tennis since I was like in my teens. So it's frustrating at first. It's like your game kind of completely changes, and like it's not super noticeable to people watching, but it's like it's such a big difference to me on the court.
Sure.
So that's kind of I'm just working on different shots now. I never learned how to ATP or hit Ernie's, which is a huge thing in pickleball, which I've hit a few in matches, but rarely any. So now I'm gonna start practicing those too. So that's I'll put that as a goal for me, I guess.
That one's tough too. I've yet, and I'm nowhere near you. So let's not, I'm not going to pretend that I am, but I'm still never, I can't get the Ernie down. I just can't figure out the timing of it. I just can't get it down. So can I copy your goal for 2024 and become
We'll see
better
who
at
gets
that
there
too with you?
first.
Well,
Yeah.
you're going to get there first. Let me
I
just get there
never
a
think
second.
to Ernie. I think because I take so many balls out of the air already, and I have a really good flick and really good reach, so it's not super necessary for me to Ernie. I think a lot of those
Sure.
balls where people can't reach in, they have to Ernie those, but I can take those out of the air. So I'm like, I still need to work on it. We'll do it together.
All right, you got it. Thank you. And let's not put it on there who does it first or last, because that's not important, right? It's just that we both do it.
Yeah, I'm
Are
gonna put
you
on my
a
story when I get it down.
okay, challenged? So what are you a film watcher? Are you a like a game breaker downer? Are you a weakness finder when you have tournaments?
So for me, I like to find their weaknesses when I get on the court. Um, it's tough because all these people have been playing together for so long and know each other like pretty well. A lot of people have played together, played against each other. So in the beginning, it was really difficult for me. Everyone's like, yeah, you just hit to this spot on this girl. And I was like, I didn't know that. Like, I didn't know that was like a thing or anything like that. But they're like, yeah, everyone knows that. I'm like, kind of like confused. So when I first started, I watched a lot of film, like all day, every day. When I was not on the court, I was watching film. And now I don't watch as much film. It's just not as fun for me after seeing it in person. So
Sure.
now I'd rather just like sit there and watch it in person. You kind of can see all the angles better and everything. But it's similar to tennis. You'd rather watch sports in person than like on your phone. And being around such high level pickleball all the time, I'd rather see it there at the site.
Yeah, no, definitely. And to your point, I mean, I'm not, I'm kind of in the middle on like film or not film. So I'm not advocating one way or the other, but to the point that you made is you can watch film and you can say like, oh, this player has a weakness here, or I should do this against this player. And then you get out there and it's like, well, they might have a totally different game plan against you. And that part may have totally changed. Right. So if you have that stuck in your head, then you go to that route and maybe it doesn't go well. Now you don't have a plan, right? Because your plan failed. So
Yeah.
you go in with like, I'm gonna play my game. I'm gonna adjust to what I need to adjust to, and I'm gonna win.
Yeah, it's really funny because I like even in tennis and pickleball, I have so many different shots. And when I would play tennis, there would be coaches that would coach against me, obviously, and their players, and they'd like have a set game plan. They're like, yes, last time you played her, she did this and that. And we'd go on the court and I just do something completely different. So I love
Totally.
that so much. It's just hilarious to me when the coaches are like, yes, you have the set game plan. You have to do hit here and here. And then you go out on the court and I'm doing something completely different. Especially since I'm like relatively new to pickleball. Like I haven't played against everyone on tour, and people kind of see me play one way against someone and they're like, okay, so you have to do this or that. And then they get out and play me and I'm going to play differently versus against different players, you know? I'm going to try and find their weaknesses and kind of change my game to that. So that's a really big thing. But I love when people come up to me, they're like, oh, I had this game plan and nothing worked. I didn't know what to do. I think that's really funny.
That's so I haven't really thought about that until you said it, but it's so funny because like the last few years in general, like you're seeing a lot of top level athletes come into the game, and there were a ton before. I'm not saying there weren't, but with the evolution of the game, it gets more popular, it gets more money in it. You're going to see more and more elite athletes come into the
Yeah.
game, and every part of the game is going to become like full on warfare, right? And this, to your
Yeah.
point, like it's now we're there to, it's like, yeah, you can watch all the film you want, just like the NFL. It's like, yeah, watch the film, sure. Well, you think we're going to do that when we play you next week? Like it's not going to happen. So the evolution of not only the equipment, but the how elite the athletes are, the game style. Like I've 5 years ago, it was a lot of like dink, 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 dink all over. And, power is never going to be a part of pickleball. It's like, yeah, no, it
Yeah.
is, because they're coming. The big dogs are coming. It's going to happen. And you see it like it's happening now, like both on the men's and women's side. Like there's a ton of powerful players out there. So that's a cool part of the evolution of the game, is like now someone like you comes in. It's like, yeah, sure, watch the film, but I'm not bringing that same game when I play you.
Yeah. Oh gosh, it's so funny. Like even if you go back like 2 years watching, it's like it feels completely different than what you see now. It's so crazy.
And I'm all for it. Like I love it. I think as you guys like continue to get like better and better, it's like I love to see the evolution of the game. I think it's awesome. Like tennis, I played racquetball, and the same, like the evolution of the game, because the equipment started getting better and the athletes started getting bigger and faster, and nutrition came the thing, and training is now different, and it's like to see where it came from and where it is. I think it's just really cool.
I think the best part is everyone's kind of evolving. So like the players you would watch 2 years ago, there's so many of them, they're adjusting to how the game is like
Yep.
getting into now. You'll see like these new tennis players coming in who are super athletic and strong, but you'll also see someone like, let's say Tyson McGuffin, like he's all about dinks, resets, all those things, and he's
Yep.
adjusting to the game and he's staying in there with everyone. It's just so nice to see things like that. And that's how the game is going to grow. Everyone's getting better and everyone's moving along with it. There's some people, unfortunately, who kind of fell behind, I think, when that happened. there's so many people I see, they were like top players like 2 years ago or something, and then kind of when the new wave started to come in, they kind of fell out. But you can still see like so many of the other players just kind of adjusting to everything, and it's really nice to see.
Yeah, and I have a saying, and it's not a good one, and don't use it because it's stupid and it's not doesn't sound cool. But athletes are going to athlete. Like the athletes are going to prevail. They're going to adjust. They're going to evolve, and they'll be around. Right? Like you see, like you mentioned a few of them, but there's a lot of them that have been playing for 5, 6 years, and the game has evolved, and they're still the top players in the world. Why? Because they're the
Yeah.
same, man or woman. It's like no, they've evolved. They adjusted. They grew with the game, and they're a new player.
Yeah.
Well, I know you have important things to do, much more important than this podcast. We'll leave, and you don't have any goals out on the table that I could have brought up here. Is there a tournament? Is there one thing that you want to win, or is there anything? I don't know. Don't say it I don't want to. If superstition or any. Just don't say it if I don't want to upset in any way the pickleball gods. So I don't want to put it out there. But is there anything that you want to leave us with that we can wait for in 2024?
I think one thing that I really want to do is win MLP. It's my favorite event. I love doing that. So hopefully we'll see how things turn out right now in the next few weeks, but hopefully I can do that this year or next year.
That would be cool. We will 100% be watching, and we'll be rooting for you. And if it happens, it's obviously because of this podcast. So you'll need to come back on as a second-time guest if that's okay with you.
Perfect.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. Good luck on tour, and we'll be watching.
Thank you.